So the last section of 1.5 we need to look at is Ethernet and Wi-Fi. Now we've talked about both of these concepts earlier in the topic, but it's worth consolidating what we know and adding in the last bits. Now we've got a better understanding of networks and different structures, protocols, that kind of thing. So we'll start by talking about Ethernet. So Ethernet is a set of rules, aka a protocol, mainly used in local area networks. And it's worth focusing on this local area networks. We're not transmitting data over the internet, just within a network on one site. So the point of the Ethernet protocol is to tell data how to make sure it tells the network how to prepare data ready for transmission across a local area network. Now, when we've talked about transmission across the internet, we've talked about packet switching. Now, data being transferred across a LAN is similar, but we talk about things in frames instead of packets. So we're splitting the data into frames. Now, they're very, very similar in terms of concept. You need to make sure, like a packet, you've got the source and destination addresses, but instead of IP, which would be over the internet, because it's only over this one network, we're using the MAC addresses. But as with packets, we also have that error checking data. That is Ethernet done. We'll now look at what if we're using a wireless connection. Same concept. Wi-Fi is a set of rules, aka a protocol, but this time for wireless networking. Now these are all points we've talked about, but they're worth recapping. So wireless networks use radio waves, obviously instead of the cables. To be able to access the Wi-Fi, you have to have devices that have wireless capability, and you need to have a wireless access point, which allows your wireless devices to then communicate through the wireless access point into the switch. Again, we've talked about the two different Wi-Fi channels. Thought it was worth recapping. So Wi-Fi has two channels because they have different kind of strengths and drawbacks. So the 2.4 gigahertz has a greater range and it's better at getting through those thick walls or whatever other obstructions you've got, but it has less non-overlapping channels. Now remember what we said, you don't want overlap because it can cause interference. So you've then got your alternative of 5 gigahertz, which is faster over short distances and it has more non-overlapping channels, so there's less likely to be that interference there. Okay, now the next topic we look at is system security, particularly across a network. It's worth, whilst we're talking about Wi-Fi, starting to introduce some of these concepts. So with the cables, there is some potential, but there's less potential for interception of data than there is through Wi-Fi, particularly if you haven't got that encryption or if you haven't got strong passwords on your network. Things such as criminal activity, so people hacking into your account and either stealing your bandwidth, stealing your data, or planting viruses, whatever it is. Okay, so there's greater risks associated with wireless networks than there are wired, and we will be investigating this more in the next topic, but I thought it was worth placing that thought in your mind. Make sure you're happy with all the content, watch the video again if you need, and we're done.